are
Welcome back to another episode of the PCC.
Y'all was in sync. Y'all was in sync. You
and
should have
we
kept
are
going.
back. Hey, back again. Hey, Mandy's back. Hey, with her friends. Hey.
My name is Chris, but people call me Jeff all night. I'm the one you like to call, but I'm not the one you wanna fight. Roll call.
Hey.
Roll call.
Chris. Chris.
Why are you calling my name?
To Mr. B. He gets all the girls and he gets all the
All right, man. Let's introduce the topic.
But today we are here to settle something that we brought up in multiple episodes. And we've talked about on camera, off camera, everywhere. That we finally said we need to just have one concrete episode about this and settle this debate. Or just at least have a conversation about it. Because it just needs to be done. So, today we were talking about how the universe exists. And what basically what you believe and hypothesize, or just anything like Big Bang related, religion, evolution. We're hitting all the heavy hitters today, okay? So, with that being said, Chris is most likely going to be our moderator. And it's going to be me, B. Chauncey, okay?
At that point, yeah.
Honestly, it won't be me, V, Amanda. At this point, like, she's gonna come with statements. I'm just going to rebut them with based off of the information she just give out. I'm probably going to just give some similar analogies to make her feel like all this was just a waste of time. But you know,
so does the prosecuting so does the thing, I can never be a judge. So does the prosecuting side want to open the first statement?
Who's that?
And I'm guessing that would be Amanda. That would be Amanda.
Well, I don't know which one's which, but okay. So me and Chauncey specifically had a lot of conversations about that, like the Big Bang Theory versus, like, you know, God creating the world in 7 days. And yes, so mine, I don't like all my view on a lot of stuff is very interesting. So I believe a mixture of both. So like I know the science, and then I'm learning the religion. So I'm learning both, I'm students of both. But at the same time, I think both are actual things that both happened. So one thing my friend actually told me was that she believes that God created the world in 7 days, but time is just a figurative thing. And those 7 days could have been actually a long period of time for when things could have happened. Say, per se, he could have created the Big Bang and all these other things. But in my opinion, people like to wrap religion against science. And that's where that debate is. But if you find ways to kind of interlink them and how both could have worked in some fashion, we could find a balance through that. So I'm not saying no to either. Because I think both, and I'm not saying the Big Bang was the cause of it, but whatever it was, I think the science and the religion both could have happened.
And your time is up, Miss Harvey. Thank you so much. Would the defendant like to give their opening statements?
Listen, I'm gonna be brief, unlike my opposition.
There's no need to slander Mr. Upshur, okay?
What's it called?
Miss Harvey, you don't need
objection.
No, you can't use objection right now, Miss Harvey. Miss Harvey, let me handle the court, okay? You don't need to slander her, Mr. Upshur. So go ahead with your statement.
They are basically making the argument that science has a way in creating what we call Earth now. I am just saying that if you believe it or not, science, I'm not going to say all science, but a good percentage of science is kind of mankind. or man creation, if you really think about it. Because not all things, we can only hypothesize what happened. True, because none of us has actually lived that long. And we do this on a normal basis. Because, for example, what we call gravity, somebody like, I'm not gonna say created gravity, but he basically put a name to something. Like that wasn't, it couldn't have been, it's possible that that wasn't an original term of it, but that is what someone created to make it more sense, to understand the world better.
So you saying Newton he could have named the chicken. It could have been named chicken for all this long.
Yeah, it could have been chicken, and we would be saying chicken instead of gravity.
Oh, with the opening statements, I can't interject yet.
Not yet. He has another minute.
So in conclusion, I will just prove that I'm not going to deny that there are some science that I can't deny, but the main arguments of science is faulty at best.
And that is the close of Mr. Upshur's statement. Let the debate begin, because this ain't a real court. So I'm gonna let it fly.
Okay, so when you say speech and like names for things, and that's why it's questionable if they exist. You know gravity exists because you would be floating. You see the difference between gravity on Earth and on the moon. So gravity does exist. Obviously, the name of gravity is something to putting a term to something. But literally the words flowing out of my mouth is putting a term to something. People create language so you can understand things better. So, and the deal with science, yes, they have hypotheses and a lot of things, but it's like when they say the Big Bang, it's the Big Bang theory. They don't state that the Big Bang actually exists. And I know with evolution, in school they say the theory of evolution. There's some people who concretely believe that evolution exists, so they call it evolution. But in a sense, it is a theory. So they do have concrete signs where they actually figure out, yes, this has exist. Yes, it does. Like just gravity. You know that gravity, like I said. So you can't fault science because like how you said, you can't fault it in everything because some things you just can't deny. But you just can't also denote the theories also, because for them to be theories, they do have a lot of proof and a lot of evidence behind them. They just can't be
evidence based off of something else that is not technically proven.
So I'll flip
it. Assume, but is not really proven.
But it's done through multiple experiments and tests through multiple times and time frames and variations of those tests.
But like someone did tell me, I mean, when I don't want to be, selective. So someone did tell me if I'm going to accept some science, I have to accept all of them. So in that terms, I can I can accept it, but I should have the ability to question science. Because you're right, there are things I can't dispute. Because I'm not going to say gravity, like the term gravity exists because of what happens when we are in a different orbit or at the moon, for example. So I can understand that perspective of science. So, but I'm just saying the Big Bang Theory has to be the biggest stretch of all time. And to put it into perspective, I feel like, I know y'all seen this meme before, but it's like Kobe shooting from the moon to the earth.
Seeing Kobe shoot from the moon to earth is crazy. Rest in peace to Kobe though. But
yeah, rest in peace to Kobe. Rest in peace to Kobe. But that was a great meme. I'm not gonna lie to you.
But okay, one flip side is, in some people's perspective, since religion is not really proven, at the same time it's like mostly faith-based, that how can you can't tangibly see that what was here and what they say, and like especially the Bible with how they say prophets, like God came to the prophets and they wrote the Bible. So with that draws a question to some people. They're like, how do you know for sure that's what like actually God came to them, and how do you know those people just aren't crazy? And or like, you know what I mean? So because
you're basically questioning the faith of Christianity, right?
no, I'm not.
No.
I'm just giving you different perspectives. That's when you say that science, like especially the theories of the Big Bang and them having a lot of evidence, even though they can't be proven. How can you the background? But how can you say it's the same thing with religion? Yes, it's faith-based, and yes, there is there's evidence behind it at the same time of things happening in history, but at the same time, like it can't be fully proven unless it's what you believe and like on your own experiences.
Okay, that's a fair comment. I mean, you personally, it all depends on who you ask. Because if you said that you can't prove it, I can say I can prove it, but like you probably won't think that's enough conclusive proof.
But
You probably point out hold on. You're probably pointing out coincidence, and I'm not gonna fault you at that because what you looking from the outside in, you probably will be thinking it's a coincidence. But in my opinion, I feel like it's God. But you're right, you have a point. So I understand your point about science and how that you can say the same thing about religion. But there are things in the Bible I feel that just I don't know. I feel like it's for me, since I've been with Christianity for all my life, and like I knew about science from a young age, I'm just more leaning to faith of God and Christianity because I feel like the Big Bang Theory saying like nothing happened, nothing was there, and then all of a sudden, like, like I just think that the Big Bang Theory is a stretch compared to someone actually creating the universe and everything we see.
The Big Bang Theory is a pretty like there's a lot of questions with the Big Bang Theory. And like I said, I don't fully know that's what created the universe, but it gives like people like another reason that's more science based, and for the people who also do question like religion, because even in the Bible, I mean, you can quote me if say if I'm wrong, but it never says that God created the universe.
He said he created the heavens and the stars. So
Okay.
therefore, I look for that question too, and then it was directly in Genesis. So
yep. Okay, yeah. So I never thought of that as being the universe at the same time.
I mean, technically, a sun is a star, and then when you're looking up at the skies, you can't really tell what's the difference between a different sun or because a sun and a star is almost the same thing in astronomy. So you can't really tell the difference if you're on the Earth from the difference between the sun and the exoplanet. So therefore, you can just justify and say that stars and planets are the stars of the universe.
Yeah. So just going back, but just going off the Big Bang Theory, like just how people in religion need reasons and explanations for things, people who solely believe in science also need reasons and explanations to believe in things. So that's also another way I think of it.
But I mean, there's also, I mean, I heard a couple of other things like people when I was like looking at it, people also mention the steady state theory or the isolated universe theory. Once
What is
again,
what is the
hmm?
steady state theory? Is that like is it like in electronics or like circuits when it just plateaus over time and then somehow it ramps back up? Like what's up?
Well, it says that that the actually let me look this up so
The
I
steady
will
state theory. I've never heard of that.
so I am saying it correctly. It says the steady state theory in cosmology is a view that the universe is always expanding but maintaining a constant average density, with matter being continuously created to form new stars and galaxies at the same rate that old ones become unobservable as as a consequence of their increasing distance and velocity of recession.
Yeah, that just sounds like the law of conservation of energy. It's just on a universal scale.
So yeah, that is the according to Britannica.com, that's what the steady state theory. And then there's
The isolation universe.
the oscillation
Oh,
theory.
isolation.
Now, I'm not like I said, I've come to realize that I can't reject some science and then accept things that are convenient to me. So in that point, I will give you that science like is real and like science has something to do like with it.
Mhm.
But it comes back to me saying I think like when you was talking about science, I feel like God created everything, and I feel like God like basically help us gain knowledge of science.
But how, like, on the same thing, if you believe that God created everything, why can't you believe that God created the Big Bang? Potentially.
That's a fair assessment. That's a fair
Yeah,
question.
it's a fair assessment. I mean, I have no rebuttal. So I mean, you like I said, you may have a point, but I feel like I don't know. I
This
just
goes. This conversation pretty much just goes back to science versus religion.
Yeah.
Like,
And like that's there's so much of a debate between them because people just don't like to connect the two. They like,
right.
especially with evolution. I was
That's
about
the
to get,
biggest one.
and people not believing that we could come from monkeys and apes and that all these organisms have evolved into different species and from air to water to everything. So people are just like, no, they like to debunk evolution because they're like, oh, no, we're here through God and
Wait, so
through
do you
like
believe
Adam.
evolution?
Huh?
Do you believe evolution?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
um, but like I said, why can't you connect the both? So yes, I do believe that we have come from apes, 100%. Like I believe just learning about evolution and like practices and just how observing things that have happened. Um, yes, I do believe, like, I'm not saying concretely, but I do think there's a very high possibility that we've come from apes and evolved from apes. But I'm saying even the apes who evolved, like when God created people and animals and things of that nature, it could have just been through, like I said, the 7 days might not be 7 days in our time. So he could have evolved all those organisms until when he got to people, got to Adam and Eve potentially, because there was already animals there. So we already had to have evolved, or either the evolution could have already started to occur. So we could have evolved into people, and then you have two people. And then from there, they can procreate and build their species that way.
I'm not 100% sure with that ape theory. I've never been the one to accept that theory that we evolved from apes just because we have genetic similar DNA. That's just my personal belief. I don't believe we evolved from ape. Huh?
Do you believe in adaptation, like natural selection?
I believe that. Yeah. That makes perfect sense to me because like the actual animals, like even with humans, people not gonna adapt in other places like they would in their normal setting. So natural selection just happens on a daily basis. Now, have there's been records of apes turning into people? I have no clue. I might be ignorant to that, but I I strongly believe that's not the case. But that's just me.
Um, one thing that we have to learn, like I learned through biology, is that like yes, there's natural selection, but then there's lots of different other factors that go into evolution. So like there's mutation. Mutation's the main one that changes species. But it's not like you said every day. Yes, things do occur every day. That's more like the survival of the fittest and stuff like that. But even that still takes time. So evolution can occur over through like hundreds of thousands of years just to see one change between species and things of that nature, and to see like one species be created from the other. So it's like it's not just that's why also it's not something that you could see like concretely, and that's why they call it a theory, because throughout a person's lifetime or even like lifetimes you're not going to be able to see it because it just takes that long.
So this is almost this is what I don't get with theories. If I have a theory, okay, that's almost like me making up a story and making it more realistic for the person to understand.
It's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. Like, don't always like I hate to be a hypocrite, but like some of the science that they're bringing up just doesn't make sense, and I want to deny it or question it. But then I will be I can't be a person who accepts some science and then rejects other science because then I'll be biased.
Like that's the thing. Like if you're doing a PhD program, okay, if you want to get your PhD, you have to go through different conferences and present your work, right? And then you want to publish it in a good publisher book or article, whatever you may be, highly respected in your field. So you have to get approval from your peers, which is other PhDs, people that's been in your field for almost 30 years doing research that's similar to you, and you want to be accepted. But at the same time, they can reject it, being like, I don't really agree with this, or this doesn't make sense to me. So we're not going to put it in there and it's going to be like debunked, or it's not going to be well accepted. So that's almost the same thing with you nitpicking or choosing which ones you want to believe in or not, because they're doing it on a regular basis now. So it's not something that's not natural. It's just something that's not really known if you're not looking at it.
You don't have to believe in everything of all of science, because that's the thing about science. You can disprove it. So with that, say if you don't believe in something, or if you not even just believing, but you want to test it out, see the what's like the I'm just gonna say this word, legitality, basically how legit it is.
The legitimacy.
Yeah, legitimacy. That's the word. If you want to see the legitimacy of it, you can test it out yourself. That's the thing about science. You can disprove something, and that's what happened in the past with just even what was it? I forget. Oh, like atoms. So I'm going back real ancient, but like I believe it was like Democritus and all those other people. They thought atoms were like shapes, and then through that they had like different models of the atom, and they had some that were proven and some that were disproven, and through that then they finally have what the model of the atom is today. But even that, like if you find something else, you can add something to it or disprove the current model. But that's just how it is. You don't have to agree with everything. But if you don't agree with it, you have to have a reason as to why.
Same thing with like the center of the universe. People thought the Earth was the center of the solar system and therefore the center of the universe. And obviously we know that's not true with current scientific researches. that we evolve. I'm not evolve, but we orbit around the sun, which is a part of multi-billion, hundreds of billions galaxies in the universe. So
Yeah.
every science is evolving all the time.
My last question that I'm going to bring up on things that can be debated is, I just want to hear, I don't know if I know Chauncey's perspective on this, but aliens and other life forms. So what is your take on that and their existence?
Well, let's get a comment from the future astronaut.
So usually put that on me. So in regards to, do I believe there's aliens? Maybe not in the present form that we are entertained by. So some alien figure with some long cone head shape, skinny body is skinnier than my finger, got long arms, look like Joel Embiid if he dropped 200 pounds. That's just not how I picture aliens. It might be in the form of bacteria or some sort, or some underground creature. I don't think we're going to see any creatures that look like us, because that's just not, I feel like that's not how aliens are built on other planets. But I don't have any proof to back up my statements, my theory either. And that's the thing, theories. That's what I was going last, like when I spoke on theories last time, that this is just your story and you're trying to make it realistic as possible. So in my mind, I think aliens are just more smaller, but they are more adaptable to their nature. And another thing with aliens, I'm not 100% sure is it going to be carbon based, even though that's the evident of all creatures we find on this earth, that is made of everything on this earth. If it lives, is pretty much carbon based. But that might not be the case on other alien planets. Therefore, that we might have to just broaden our horizons and see what type of shapes we can make with living organisms. And this might just open up a whole can of worms at that point. But that's just my opinion.
Long story short, I agree with Chris. Like, I feel like there is some life form out there, but just not the typical life form we're thinking of right now.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. The only other thing that brought me into question was when you said they're probably all smaller, but you never know, there might be some. Or my question goes to Chris being, do you think we're the most like evolved species out there?
I can't say, because we haven't met anybody that came close. I mean, I've talked about this multiple times with my other engineering friends, and the consensus is we've sent out multiple radio wave signals into the universe, correct? I think like one of the first ones is like an MLK speech or something like that, and it was like a TV show or something like that with a theme song, and we haven't gotten a response back yet from whoever or whatever known to the public. Maybe the space agencies know something that we don't know, highly classified people. It's probably like only 5 people in the whole world that know something like that. If you go to
think about it. Imagine we was getting news that we found life form outside of the planet.
If we would have found that in 2020, I think nobody would be shocked. But if we found it this year, I think a lot of people will be out their mind.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you gotta do what's best to calm the public. So if we did find some, you had to be in those inner groups to know.
You remember that brief moment in time when people were like, "Let's go evade Area 51."
I was like, oh my gosh.
Y'all remember that brief moment in time when people were trying to bomb rush Area 51?
Mm-hmm.
But them military base was ready to pop anyone on sight.
For people who might not believe in aliens, I think they're dumb. Like, I don't want to discredit them, but like, or not just like who say like they absolutely do not exist. And with that, just knowing how big the universe is, and the odds of us just being the only life form out there in some faction, they could be like super, super small or like super, super big. Just the odds of it. Like, I know we live in our Earth and our bubble of Earth, but you just gotta broaden your mind to what could be possible, knowing how big just the universe is.
There's, I forget what Neil deGrasse Tyson said, but I'm gonna try it as best as I can. If I butcher it, if I remember it later on, I'll put it in the description. But I think he said there's like, let's just say for all sense and purposes, there's a billion stars, and every star has what? No, there's a billion galaxies, and each galaxy has a billion stars, and every star has, let's say, 100 planets. That we're almost close to a billion trillion planets, and for us to be the only one in this whole and giant expanding universe,
You
to
really
have,
just gotta be.
huh?
You really just gotta be oblivious.
Right,
That's what I'm
right.
saying.
You really just have to be self-centered. That's what it is.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you don't have to sugarcoat no more. You just at that point, you just
You're
you
just
just
an
worry about yourself.
egotistic American.
You're an American.
And the funny thing is, I can't even deny it because apparently there is some. That's an American thing to do. For some reason, we are just like
This is
we are
America.
like one of the most self-centered people that just I don't know.
That's
I don't know why.
This
Why?
is America.
But you know,
This is America. Woo, woo. I was gonna just
Thank
slip
you
in
guys
there.
so much for tuning in. I'm glad this conversation stayed civil and strong. So let me, I don't know what this, yeah. But guys, let us know what you guys think about all of this in the comments. I would love to hear different perspectives because none of my, I have a lot of thoughts going in my mind, but I would love to hear what you guys think because no one knows the actual answers, but you just offer us some insight. Give us some juice. Yeah.
and of course, stay frosty.
Until next time. Hey.